Welcome to the Rugby League Outsiders set of 6, our weekly news show where we share the good, the great and the noteworthy of Rugby League outside the heartlands. My name's Craig.
And my name's Karl. And on this week's show, we're going to have a Challenge Cup Roundup. Matty Nicholson, he's tearing it up in the NRL for Canberra. And we're going to have a Rugby League chairman on the show talking about what's going on with the RFL.
Right, Karl, let's get straight into it then. Our first story, we're going to check in with Andy Mazey, chairman at Rochdale Hornets. We're going to talk a little bit about the Nigel Wood situation at the RFL and how that came about, and also talk a little bit about some of the incentives they've got at Rochdale to put more bums onto seats within the stadium. Okay, we're privileged this morning to be joined by Andy Mazey, who's the chairman of Rochdale Hornets. You've been there since about 2020, and recently you put out a statement on the website in support of the Nigel Wood whole game strategic review. So really, we just want to get a bit of an idea about the state of RFL from a chairman's point of view, because I'm sure you've spoken to loads of your own fans and people like, a wider fans of the game. There's lots of gaps in knowledge, and we're just hoping that perhaps the chairman is a little bit more informed and can put a little bit of meat on the bones for us. So welcome, Andy.
Yeah, thank you for having us. And it's been an interesting few days and week in Rugby League, hasn't it? But certainly from our perspective, I thought it was important that we put something out to let our supporters and stakeholders understand that we had voted in support for what's going on. Whether you believe the timing's right or whether you believe the way it's been done is right, undoubtedly, in my view, the game needs, it needs change, and we need it, whether you're a supporter, an owner, a chairman, a partner, a sponsor, media guys like yourselves. I'm sure we would all agree that we want to see the sport become the very best it can be, and that's part of the reason, or the main reason, why I voted for this, because I just feel that, there's a lack of drive, and certainly I think we've treaded water as a sport for too many years now, and in recent times, and there's only so many times you can cite COVID and cite other things that have gone on. I think we've just got to really sort of look at it, and hopefully this review process now and the moves that have been made will be the first step towards some meaningful change for the game.
Andy, what are you sort of most upset about with the running of the game at the minute? Is it the IMG? Is it promotion, relegation? How do you stand on those sort of big factors?
Well, again, for context, I was supportive of IMG coming in. Yeah, I was supportive of a strategic partner, and for all the reasons that we voted for IMG, I was very supportive of at the time. It's fair to say that the jury's still out on IMG. I think, it's still relatively early days in terms of their tenure. But I think the wider sport and the way we're going, I haven't seen enough to convince me that we've made meaningful change in the last couple of years, and that we're on a pathway to success. And I just feel that, there's a lot of issues, and I understand the difficulties of the governing body. They've suffered funding cuts like we have as clubs. But ultimately, we've got to, we have got to move forward as a game, and we've got to find, a drive from somewhere. And, we need innovation. We need a leader. We need some bold people and some bold actions. And I'll reiterate, really, whether you think it's the right time to do what's been done, whether you think it's been done the right way, whether you believe Nigel's the right man, we've got to make that first step. And Nigel, it's important to remember, Nigel's been voted for, if you like, on the basis that he's coming in on an interim basis to carry out the review process. And the review process is the initial steps, I'm hopeful, of us identifying the way forward. And, that will include everybody. The clubs have got to be consulted in that. The RFL is obviously important in that, RL Commercial, IMG, everybody's got to be, looked at within that process, and all the voices have got to be heard. And we've got to put what I believe is a really strong and bold plan to get this sport moving together. And that's a collective effort. I've encouraged Nigel privately. I've said, get out to every club if you can and hear the voices of everybody at all levels, take on board all the views. And I know Nigel will do that. Nigel, why there's a negative perception sometimes on social media. People on social media don't necessarily see it the way that, you get to see it when you're on the other side of the fence and you're in the game. And Nigel is a rugby league man, like it's been spoken about. He lives and breathes the sport. And one of my biggest things, and I referred to it in our statement, is that he'll have the benefit of hindsight as well. He's been there and done it.
Yeah.
He'll understand not just the good things that were done in his tenure, but he'll understand to a degree the bad things that were done, or maybe the things that they didn't quite get right at that time. And that benefit of hindsight and experience may be crucial in this review process, because while I understand the calls for an independent review and new people to come into the sport, hopefully that'll be part of the next stage when the review's been done. But I think initially, if you were to put somebody in independent and new who doesn't know the game, they'd probably spend 6 to 12 months learning about it and understanding it. Nigel's already got that knowledge, so that's the reason I supported Nigel.
I've got a couple of questions around that. First of all, there was a few questions asked, weren't there, about, is Nigel Wood the right person to be doing this? And bearing in mind, 2018, he was pretty much forced out of the game, if you like. But I was sort of wondering, is he the only one that's put his hand up and said, you know what, I'm willing to do this? Bearing in mind it's like it's a temporary thing that's going on here. Like, do you know the process for him being chosen?
Yeah, well, my understanding is that obviously this has been quite clearly, as you can see from public record and things that have gone out. Derek and Gary were mandated by Super League to speak to the RFL and to drive a position of some change. And I don't think Nigel's come along and put his hand up for that. My understanding is that Super League clubs have basically approached Nigel to do that, because there's a feeling that his experience, and certainly on an interim basis, to come in and lead that process. And let's be clear, he'll be leading a team. He'll not be doing that alone.
Yeah.
He'll lead a team I wouldn't say independently. Well, they will be independent from clubs, certainly to lead a review. And the bottom line is my view on it is very much that the people who are very, very much and most invested in this are the club owners, because, and I know people will say, well, it's self-interest and blah, 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 but I think what's got to be really clear is there's an old saying, there's no game without fans. There's probably no game without club owners in this day and age either, because them guys are certainly at the top table. Your Simon Morans and all the bigger players in Super League. They're funding their particular clubs to the tune of millions per year. So quite rightly, they will want a say in the direction of the sport. And if they feel that process and the leadership isn't strong enough, or things are not being done correctly, they will want a voice in that, and it'll be a strong voice, because ultimately they're the ones most at risk, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. I mean, thanks for clearing a lot of that up, because I think it's filled some gaps in some people's knowledge. You talked about innovation and something new coming, but from my point of view as well, I think there's some of the bare basics missing from the RFL. And we're not big on RFL bashing and that kind of thing, but it just seems you could throw the Salford situation in there as well, that communication has been lacking.
Yeah.
Have you had more information from the RFL, more chats?
No, I think probably one of my frustrations really is that certainly from a League One perspective, we're always the last to know really. The comms aren't brilliant, and as you say, I don't want to come on here and bash the governing body, and certainly, Simon Johnson, I had a good relationship with Simon throughout my time, my 5 years at Rochdale, but prior to that at Swinton. On a personal level, Simon, fantastic guy, and he's done a job for the RFL. But I think we're at a point in time, as you said, there's a lot of key issues. I think there's a lot of key issues that certainly have driven Super League clubs to a point where they feel they need some change. The Salford situation being a case in point, really. I mean, to some degree, it's probably shown up some of the processes that are in place, the special measures, proper persons processes and tests, etc. And to some degree, you'd argue, looking at the Salford situation, and you'd argue and say that, there's not much teeth in that process. There's not much. We've not managed to be able to manage that situation as well as we should have done as a sport. You'd argue. So, and I think there's a lot of other things. I think you're looking at the the references in the last few days to the lack of women involved. But there's been some really strong women leaders involved in this game over the time I've been involved. Karen Morehouse, for one, who I'd argue, and it'd be quite a controversial point, but I'd argue that had Karen still been involved with the sport, the Salford situation may well have been dealt with a lot differently. So, I don't think it's a case of trying to move women out. I would argue that, and I'd probably reserve judgment till you see what the process kicks out, and maybe where we are in 12 months' time. But it would be a case, for me, is refreshing this, and he's getting some strong leaders in. As I said, I'll keep referring to that. Some strong leadership, some innovators where possible. And as you say, it's not necessarily about reinventing the wheel, but it's probably a root and branch analysis of where we can be better, bigger and stronger as a sport that already exists. The product's fantastic, isn't it? Look at Las Vegas, the performance that Wigan put on out there against Warrington. Some of the best rugby league you'll see anywhere in the world. And, I'd argue that Wigan could take on anybody in the NRL, in World Rugby, and they proved that last year, beating Penrith Panthers, didn't they? So the product we've got here is fantastic, but are we really marketing it as well as we should? Is it, are we treading water commercially? Because if you look at it, the 5 to 10 years I've certainly been involved in around the council, the RFL council table, the TV revenues have declined, and the commercial revenues arguably are not what they should be. So I think this is what the review's all about for me, is the Super League clubs. And, there was an overwhelming sort of, as the statement referred to, there was an overwhelming support from clubs in Championship and League One as well. Not necessarily, everybody in agreement that it was the right time, but certainly everybody wants change for the better. And hopefully this, while it's not been certainly publicly and across social media not been received very well, hopefully it is the start of something positive for us.
Andy, you just touched on the timing there, and you spoke about Vegas a little bit. I mean, we all know that the NRL has started to pay a little bit more interest in the sport at the moment. There's talk of them maybe getting involved. How damaging do you think the timing of this has been? And then the second question is, where do you sort of stand on the NRL sort of potentially coming in and taking a stake in Super League and Rugby League in general, really? Yeah,
well, firstly, to take your first point, timing-wise, why it's never, a lot of people are describing it as a coup and one thing and another. I don't think it is. I think it's just been a case of we need to move quickly on this.
Yeah.
So timing-wise, why, it would have never been popular had they done, in some quarters, had been done, what we've done, been done now, or 12 months down the line, it probably would have had the same reaction.
Yeah.
And I think from a timing perspective, I think there's some key milestones to come up in the next 12 months, 18 months in terms of the broadcast and the Sky TV deals, etc. So there's probably a need to get on the front foot with that. Hence the reason why Super League have gone the way they've gone with it.
Yeah.
In terms of NRL, I think it's been mentioned many times over recent years that there's a bit of a passing interest or a bit of a flirting interest with our game. But I don't think, as far as, unless I might be behind the times, I don't think there's been to date a serious interest. I think there may have been a few conversations, but in terms of my own personal view on that, I'd welcome that. You cannot dispute the fact that the NRL is in a fantastic place, and I appreciate the game's on a different different level over there in terms of the scale, etc. But from where they were a few years ago to where they are now, they've seen some remarkable sort of rises in performance, haven't they, commercially and digitally and across all aspects. So their involvement to come along and get involved with us on a personal level, I'd be really open to something like that, because I think you can only stand back and admire and learn from what they do. But I think that's something that, will need to be sort of addressed by people a lot higher up the food chain than I am. So, yeah, certainly, timing-wise, I think there is reasons for doing it. I think we need to get on the front foot with broadcast and other aspects of the commercial stuff. And, there's never been a good time, I don't think, really. So just hopeful. As I say, I keep repeating myself, but the review process needs to happen. I think they need that to happen quickly. My understanding is that Nigel will get his teeth into that with the team straight away, and that by July council meeting we will have some feedback on that and be consulted, and then hopefully that then will be the way towards building the plan for the future, the vision for the future. And as you guys said, I don't believe it needs to be radical. I just need to think. Ultimately, over the last couple of years, we've tried different things to try and different initiatives and projects to try and increase the supporter base and get some bums on seats. And I think the Project 15 is a pulling together of all the parts that we felt we've seen a little bit of success from, and putting it into a wider strategic plan to really go for it this year and really start the beginning of a new era for our fan base. So there's been an understanding that certainly in the current times and climate that price and cost is a barrier. It is a barrier certainly to families. They can't necessarily all afford £17 per adult and paying for children as well. And then obviously when they do get in the stadium, they've got other secondary spend and costs to meet as well. So we've taken a bit of a sort of decision as a board and as owners. We've said, look, we're going to effectively write off a lot of our gate revenue, but I think we've got to do that for the greater good and for the future of the club and for growth. And that, I guess, that's us investing as owners in the project and in the future and in the fan base, really. And that's the initiatives we're trying to make it really wide and encompassing across the borough and into neighbouring boroughs in Bury as well, and tapping into other communities as well. We've got the band communities in Rochdale that people have tried in the past to engage with the help of our mayor and with the help of some of the councillors that we've got and supporters. Thankfully, we've been able to tap in a little bit more to different communities that have not necessarily seen rugby league or wanted to partake in rugby league. So I'm just hoping that 2025 will be the year that we can look back on and say we really changed the course of the direction for Rochdale in terms of our fan base, because we're like many other clubs in rugby league where we've got a loyal, hardcore following, and we're really grateful for them. But they are aging. The majority are aging, and unless we change this for the better now, the trajectory was only going one way. So this is the reason for the project. We're excited by it because it taps into that many different aspects that we feel that a percentage of success on each pillar of the project, and the overall result will be a positive one. So I guess it's watch this space. We'll report back in later in the year, and I'll tell you how it's gone on.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, we'll hold you to that. Definitely, we'll see how it's gone later on in the year. Last thing from me, Andy, you've just announced a very exciting sponsorship with Nando's. How did you manage to get such a national sponsor over the line like that?
Yeah, it's something we because of the situation over the last few years where there's been a decline in central distribution, we've had to be creative around how we operate commercially. We're really grateful and thankful that we've got some really, excellent supportive partners, and Kia Premier, the Kia across the front of the shirt and everything we do is a major partner, and a lot of our other partners on the shirt, etc. But the being able to go out and tap into a brand like Nando's, I believe, is quite big for us in terms of the the sport as well. I think brands of that magnitude should be connected with rugby league. I know Lee, quite close to Lee and Derek over there, and they've managed to get into the Jet 2 space, haven't they, this year? And that's a big one, obviously, for them as a Super League club. But this Nando's partnership is strategic in that with all the Project 1500 stuff, they're going to support us on that, but they're also supporting us in the community. So there is an income from the partnership, but I think more importantly, the wider sort of brand, the brand awareness that comes from ourselves being connected with Nando's and vice versa, but also the work in the community, the support they're giving on that as well. It's the kind of partnership that we're keen to not only develop, but keen to do more of. We're talking to other companies and brands about connecting with us on different levels, and that's where we're pretty fortunate in Rochdale. We're one of 10 greater Manchester boroughs in our own right, with the best part of 250,000 people in our own catchment area, which scores really well on the IMG grading system. And in terms of that borough, there's a lot of potential for Nando's to sell chicken, for Kia to sell cars, and for other partners to do business on the back of. So ultimately, that's what the sport's got to be about. When I say, at the higher levels and in RL commercial, this is where we want to see. We want to see innovation. We want to see people who are willing to go out and knock on doors, and people who are willing to go out and sell this game. And I'm a great believer. You sell yourself out of a problem. You don't. You don't get anywhere in any business unless you go out and sell, do you? So that's ultimately the way we look at it is central distributions are what they are. Our current gates are what they are. Let's go out and sell ourselves and bring commercial partners in, bring revenue in, and give them something for it and the bang for the buck that they need. So hopefully Nando's will be, they'll get out of it what they want, and likewise we will out of it from our end.
Andy, do you have a particular favourite Nando's meal of your own? What's your go-to order?
Well, I like the chicken. I won't lie. I'm on the sauce front. I can't get past medium. Anything beyond medium is a bit too spicy for me, I'll be honest. But no, to be fair, I'm pretty partial to the Nando's sauce, the piri piri sauce, and I've been across to Portugal on holiday quite a few times, and I like the piri piri chicken. So it's the team obviously is part of the agreement and the arrangement we've got. A lot of the team meals and stuff now will be done at Nando's, where in the past we've taken them to restaurants across Rochdale. Everything will be, and that'll be the men's, the women's, the wheelchair, and even the board of directors will be going for a Nando's now rather than using a pub in Rochdale. So it's that's what. Ultimately, we've got to drive traffic. I know I was getting photographs over the weekend from people connected at the club who were going into local Nando's stores, and there's actually flyers in the window now highlighting our partnership. The shirts are for sale in Nando's outlets in Rochdale and Bury, believe it or not.
That's awesome.
And it's great. People are messaging me through social media saying I'm using my discount. You had a young girl who's tweeted to say that she got 20% off at Nando's on Saturday. So fantastic! It's what it's about, isn't it? If we can help Kia sell cars, and Derek's helping people sell Jet 2 are selling flights, and all these other brands that connect with the sport. They want to create business from these partnerships, don't they?
Well, the Rugby League outsiders love a discount anyway, so Rochdale is going to be our next up. Actually, Andy, while you're on, we do a series from the outside in, so the outsiders go and visit the game day experience at all clubs around the country. We did one with Hull last week. We're due to go to Leigh. Yeah, just looking for my invite for Rochdale, mate.
It's an open invite. Whenever you can make it, just give us a shout. Matt, our general manager, will look after you. I'll meet you in Nando's beforehand and sort you out a discounted meal. Don't worry about that.
You're on, mate.
On a serious note, you're always welcome, guys. I think your show's fantastic what you do, because you highlight some of the things that go on in the game that sometimes don't get picked up, and It's absolutely fantastic what you do. So keep up the great work, yeah.
Cheers, Andy. Thanks a lot, mate.
On to story 2 then, Karl. And there was a varsity match this week. We both watched it, glued to the screen. Great coverage from your Nectar.
Great coverage, a great game, and also a load of Biff. I feel like we may have incited that a little bit, Craig, on our varsity pre-game show. Yeah, varsity rugby took place this week. If you don't know what it is, Oxford versus Cambridge. It's the biggest game in University Rugby League. These two, they don't like each other. There's no love lost there. And as you can see from these highlights, it all ripped in.
The boys, who I'm sure we'll get onto later on.
The Oxford team looking strong as they run out there. Cambridge taking the kick off their number 13, Joe Robertson.
Oh, a lovely long kick from Cambridge. Can Oxford take it? They can.
And that is a thunderous welcome committee from the Cambridge defence for Jacques Barkley, the Oxford prop. Puts the Cambridge defender on his arse. Sorry, bottom.
Oh, and Oxford break here. Oh, what a pass to get that way.
And it's to the man who was yellow carded, who would jump through the post, and Oxford would go 4-0 up. And in the Derby Day match a few weeks ago was not ideal, however, that one was safe. Tom Foolery that played the ball there, but
Seems to get Oxford down here.
yeah, that gets the Cambridge crowd. That gets the Cambridge crowd, and we've got fisticuffs again.
Oh, and again, the passion.
This is wonderful to see.
Oh, just
There's
see
beers being
drinks
thrown from the Cambridge crowd.
Oh my word. Archie Taylor there, surely.
See who that is. Looks like Ben Horsell, the Oxford left winger. He's been shown yellow.
See which player being sent off. Yeah, so the score at half-time sits at 12-4 to Oxford. We will now hand you back over to Dave.
So, with just one of the players, mate. Nothing special about you.
Run in from...
Can they put more points on the board?
Have to ask how long
Enzo
is left.
Benedetti throws a long pass.
Ball. Can Stonehenge get him down?
Yeah,
He
Ben
can.
Horsell almost makes his way to the try line. Ben Aldridge to play the ball from dummy half, and he jumps over, and Oxford have put this game to bed. That is it, in the 46th Rugby League varsity match, Oxford. And he still can shank that though, with miles wide, but he weren't there. He's got a grin on his face. Great, oh, look at that.
Oh my God! Oxford threatening around again.
There it is, watch that. Look at that, drink it in. The Oxford boys run onto the pitch. That must be difficult for the Cambridge boys to watch. But for Oxford, it is glory, it is ecstasy, and that is game. Oxford 20, Cambridge 4. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you, Bethan.
Thank you.
Cambridge 4, Oxford taking the upset on away turf. Thanks. We're handing you back to Dave.
Goodbye.
So, Karl, viewers from our last show will be wondering when the schlidding is happening, because you called me out. You said if Cambridge win, I got to get schlidded, and then Oxford took them to the cleaners. So surely that means the eyebrows got to come off, or you got to get yourself a Friar Tuck or something.
Well, I was thinking about it, mate, and it was going to happen, but then we got invited to another game, so can't be turning up with just one eyebrow on or all the rest of it. Look, diving into the match, what a great game it was. I mean, I had the Super League on one TV, I had the Varsity Rugby on the other TV, I had the radio on because I was listening to the Bradford match, and do you know what the game that caught my attention was? It was the Varsity game. I was absolutely glued to the screen.
Yeah, and hats off to your Nectar Sports, because they did a cracking job with the coverage, and you compare it to some of the platforms that have been streaming games in perhaps League One, Championship and all that. I would say head and shoulders above. You know, it was presented well. Commentators, all right, they weren't homegrown, born and bred rugby league fans, and perhaps they missed that depth of understanding for the game. But it was, definitely great coverage.
Talking about the game, then, sort of Oxford really came out of the traps pretty quick, didn't they? It was about. They took a bit of a foothold of the game fairly early on. I think it was about 20 minutes in they got the first try. It overspilled into the crowd. A fight. There was yellow cards early on. But I think Oxford controlled the game. I think their back line was a little bit superior to Cambridge's. It was a little bit quicker. And they just exploited it around the ruck as well, I thought.
Yeah, and hats off to Cambridge because, they did put in a spirited fight. And there were, there was a couple of times, especially in the first half, where it was all Oxford. Cambridge got the ball, they turned it around, and, within a few plays, they were on the Oxford try line. And it took some spirited defence to keep that ball out. So it could have gone either way.
Yeah, I mean, just as we approached half-time, I think Cambridge were 2 tries up, we've just seen from the highlights. Oxford were 2 tries up, going into sort of half-time, and right on the hooter, a lovely kick over by Cambridge, collected by the winger, went in for the try. So there was only the 1 try in it at half-time. As the second half developed, though, I think Oxford were just a little bit too strong, a little bit too quick, and the game got away from Cambridge. Yeah,
and that was a record-setting, or certainly in recent times, double, 2 wins on the bounce.
That. Yeah. So predominantly for the last few years, whichever the home side has generally won this fixture. This was the first time in at least sort of 5 or 6 years that the away side has actually picked up the win. So yeah. Cambridge, you've got it all to do next year.
No, I was in the comments for the whole game, and I was sort of chatting away. And a new phrase that I've learned: "shoe the tabs." Right now, I was like, someone kept typing in there, "shoe the tabs, shoe the tabs." I was like, what the hell is this shoe the tabs? So I messaged the guy and I said, look, please just explain what it means. and apparently it's something. It's a way of booing the Cambridge team. Right, so whether it goes back to the boat race or whatever, I don't know. But I found myself typing shoe the tabs. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Apologies for swearing there. Moving on then, so our tackle 3, Matty Nicholson, a Halifax born and bred lad, plied his trade at the Siddle Club, tearing it up in the NRL.
Absolutely tore it up on debut for Canberra Raiders. He bagged himself 2 tries. Man, he had such a good game. And I think we got a little bit of egg on our faces here, Craig. What are you saying?
No, definitely. I mean, I was the first to sort of say that he hadn't really set the world alight at Warrington. Yeah. Right. Interestingly, when he made his debut at Wigan, right, he scored 2 tries in his debut for Wigan as well. And then he did this. There was this almost unceremonious move to Warrington. It was like a very quick thing. I don't know if you remember it. You know what I mean? It was like, it just seems to have happened really quick. I don't know kind of what happened there. Started getting a bit more game time at Warrington. Like I said, put in some good steady shifts and was strong and solid. But then when he signed for NRL, I was like, I don't know how he's going to cope down there.
Well, I think he was on loan, at Newcastle or something. I think Sammy Burgess sort of came in and brought him back from... I could have got that wrong. He was definitely on loan somewhere. I think Burgess brought him back into the wire fold. Yeah, he had a steady season, didn't he? But it certainly didn't set the world alight. But we've seen this with other players. George Williams, when he went to the NRL, he just went up a level, didn't he? And Matty Nicholson's debut, like I say, it was on fire. He scored after only 8 minutes being on the pitch. He scored Canberra's first try. Just hit the ball like an absolute train, bounced players off, went straight over the line, and then bagged himself one in the second half as well. I have been sent his stats as well by the Snipers Club NRL tips. So his stats are as follows: 2 tries, he made 53 run meters and 26 tackles. So massive stats there. And like I say, it was a big win for Canberra as well. 2 from 2 now, Canberra. Big win over Brisbane.
Yeah, good effort, Matty Nicholson there. And I just want to sort of pose this question, like how many, like the Aussies must be thinking that the only place Rugby League players come from is like this, within 10 miles of Halifax. Because when you think about it, like Gareth Widdop, Morgan Smithies, his teammate at Canberra, he's from Halifax. Matty Nicholson there, and I just wonder, like how many players, or British players in the NRL, have come from sort of West Yorkshire, Halifax.
You had Elliot Whitehead as well, only down the road in Bradford, who's played for West Bowling. So, yeah, Canberra's got a real good connection with British players, hasn't it? And I think with them being at Vegas as well, and the Canberra crowd, how they really connected with the British fans, I think I don't know which is the best British supported side, actually, but I reckon they're up there.
They've got to be. I mean, a couple of recent converts that, didn't really follow too much NRL. You took them to Vegas, got them shedded, and next thing they're buying Canberra, all green.
They all love milk.
From the rugby store, by the way.
Yeah. Right, I'll just go through the rest of the results from the NRL. So Newcastle Knights 26, Dolphins 12, Warriors 36, Manly 16. This was a turn up for the Bucks. Cherry Evans got injured. Trbojevic has got injured. 2 of their big stars for Manly are now out going into the next round.
Now I know you was really backing Manly and running into you was really excited for this game. So you'd think those injuries cost them the game?
Possibly. I don't know. No, the Warriors they were just on fire. The Warriors. I mean, they didn't hit the straps, did they, at Vegas? But they came into this game and straight away they were on it. So yeah. Looking forward to watching them in the next round, definitely. Panthers 32, the Roosters 38. Craig, I know you didn't see it, this was one of the best games I've watched in absolutely ages. It went down to the last second of the match. Penrith went in at the corner. Did he get it down? Didn't he get it down? The referee judged it to be in touch. Just an absolute spectacle of rugby league. I was glued to the screen watching this game. So I can't wait to see Penrith this week against Melbourne Storm. Dragons 24, Rabbitohs 25. Another game went right down to the wire. The Cowboys 12, Sharks 36. Raiders 32, Broncos 22, we've already had. Parramatta are really struggling this year. They only got 6 points against the Wests, who got 32. Bulldogs 40, Titans 24. Jerome Luai, interestingly, pulling the strings at the Wests, is looking good. They're playing it really. I saw some of the highlights of this, and they're playing it like touch footy. They're just chucking the ball around. Really interesting to watch.
Okay, so there's your NRL roundup.
I've just got to mention Mark Nanganetawase, got his name right, in one. We featured him pre-season, didn't we? Wallabies convert, come over from Rugby Union. This was only his 3rd game playing for the Roosters. Man, the guy absolutely ripped it up. He is one to watch this season in the NRL. You can tell that he's still learning.
He's still green.
He's still learning the game of Rugby League, but he's got the skills. He scored a try. He set a couple of up. His defence was shit hot. I'm looking forward to watching him for the rest of the season.
Brilliant. Okay, so that's your NRL roundup, and good luck, Matty Nicholson, for the rest of the season. Right, I just want to introduce a new section here, Karl. All right, so the viewers' mailbag, okay, which for some reason just, I don't know, it conjures up weird visions in my mind. But,
we had this suggested, by the way, in the comments that we should do this, so we're going for it.
Yeah, so we picked out a couple of comments which we're just going to read out, give them a little bit of acknowledgement, and then also just put our little bit of spin on there as well. So the first one, right, is a little bit lengthy, so stick with us, and this is going to bring up all sorts of talking points, right? So right, first one. So this was pitched to us by Curtis Goodard 56 on YouTube. Okay, so there it goes. Bring back the Biff. Like ice hockey, we can set a lot of rules to control it and make it a mutual combat situation, so no one is getting hit, right? Nor would it have a drastic impact on the game unless they break the rules. Then it's red cards. For instance, only allow it at the ruck. So what we're talking about here is very similar to the ice hockey, where it's like gloves off and they have the code, don't they? Where they can have a fight, right? And they will get penalised for it, okay? But they just let it happen. Interestingly, doing a bit of digging around on the internet before the show, they do it because they believe that if they can let players let off a bit of steam, it'll stop more drastic penalties later on in the game. Right? I don't know what their proof is.
No, because all I do is send them off for however many minutes, and they sit in a box getting steaming red, and then they come back on and lamp each other again.
Right. So this is the key bit from Curtis here. So, for instance, only allow it at the ruck after the play of the ball between the offensive player and the first marker. Like dropping gloves in ice hockey, the offensive player pushes the first marker, then the defensive player pushes him back, then it's on for 30 seconds. Now, I had visions of the rest of the team kind of getting round them and counting 1, 2, 3, and they've got to keep battling for 30 seconds, right? So you can see that happening. If anyone else throws a punch or joins the fray, it's red cards. The players who are yellow carded for the fight only serve 2 minutes in the bin, so we aren't playing a 12-a-side rugby game for an extended period of time. Then the offending players actually go to the bin under the posts and allow them to both tackle any ball carrier that steps inside the 10 metres. So they're sort of half in the game, half out the game. And then, once the 2 minutes are up, they can sprint out and rejoin the team. Right, Karl? So, obviously, very much tongue-in-cheek and a lot to control there, but what's your thoughts on that?
I want to know if this is actually a serious comment.
Well, that don't matter, does it? They don't matter. We're treating it as such.
A 30-second biff off. It's only allowed to happen at the ruck. Nobody's allowed to get involved.
No one else is allowed to get involved.
Yeah, no players are allowed to get involved. And after that, you only get 2 minutes in the sin bin, which you have to stand under your own post. But you're allowed to tackle players if they come in your own 10.
Yeah.
Absolute madness.
Like, can you imagine?
It's just mad.
Can you imagine? Say you had someone like Luke Keary, right? I'm picking out because he's a bit like me. He's a bit vertically challenged, right? And perhaps someone like I don't know, like a beast, Junior Nsemba, right? And he's just like, right, 30 seconds, Junior, where you go, do your worst on Luke Keary. You can imagine, absolute. I think in ice hockey, I don't think you have a difference in stature like that. You know what I mean? And I'm pretty sure Luke Keary can handle himself, but come on, you know what I mean? He's going to inflict a lot of damage. I did think we could perhaps use this to make the video referee a bit more interesting, though. Right, this is my take. I'm going to blend this rule.
This is talking shit.
So we all know the old video referee. It's a bit of a night. It slows the game down. It's boring. It's not. We need some way of kind of improving it. It's pretty crap. How about when the video referee?
See, but you're going to spout some absolute crap.
Yeah. Well, so when the video referee kicks in and he's making his decision, the two players involved have to have a fight until the decision is made, right? And that'll just be a lot more interesting than
in a time when the governing body is being taken to court because of head injuries. You're trying to put more fighting onto the game. Look. It's madness in it. It's it's madness.
No, but thank you for your comment there. I've got one more from Yoda the Jedi 88. Really privileged that Yoda has commented on the and basically this was on the back of one of our NRL jersey videos where we kind of said there's a time and place for jersey shirts, for jerseys to wear them, and he sort of contradicted that. He said my uncle was a huge Panthers fan and I was allowed to wear my Panthers jersey to his funeral. So depending on the person, there's never a time you can't wear a jersey. I also requested my guests wear jerseys at my wedding if they wished. So, Karl, what's your thought on this?
I like it. Yeah, great way to remember his uncle. It was his uncle wanted it, he said. Yeah.
Do you think there's a time and a place for a rugby jersey? A job interview? Would you wear one for a job interview?
No, I won't wear one for a job interview. But, however, I just want to see people wearing rugby jerseys, rugby shirts, should we say, in the UK. Yeah, be proud to promote your sport. Go for it. But other than a job interview, I don't think that or certainly any job interview in the South.
Yeah, strictly tweed for that. Right, okay, so that's the first couple of comments out of our mailbag section. And if you want to get your comment featured, then obviously you've got to comment first of all, and priority will go to members of the channel. So check out the memberships there to get your comment read out.
Just going back to the jerseys before we move on. We did have a comment this week as well, and I think it was on our NRL shirt review video, and basically he basically went, none of these are jerseys anymore. They're all just T-shirts. Bring back the proper 80s jerseys.
Oh, I weighed a ton when the piss went through.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Like when you played at school and you could be a stone heavier just because, just because your shirt was full of water.
Yeah, but I love the classic shirts, though, don't you? No,
I'm not big on wearing on shirts though. I wouldn't really stick a shirt on. I'll wear that today. That's not really my
true.
cup of tea.
So somebody else commented as well. The reason I don't like rugby jerseys anymore is because I just look like a walking advertising billboard.
Yeah,
and there's kind of some truth in that, isn't there?
Yeah. But you can get yourself a Nando's shirt from Rochdale.
Yeah.
Right, let's move on then. So, Challenge Cup Roundup. So, lots going on, some very, very close calls. And, of course, the champions out of the cup as we sit here right now.
Dive into Saints versus Leeds first. One of the only games you could actually watch this weekend. More about the coverage another time. Saints 22, Leeds 14. Leeds went down quicker than a Jake Connor pass into the stands. I mean, what was going on there? You watched it. Give me your feedback.
Just incredibly clunky, and it's the same record playing, isn't it? You know what I mean? Just those little bits of skill on the end just weren't there. Some players perhaps trying too hard. You mentioned the Jake Connor pass into the row F or whatever in the stand.
Yes.
Don't quite know what was going on there, but just missing. And I don't think Saints were great, but they were certainly good enough to beat Leeds. And it's a shame because I thought it was going to be a lot tighter than this.
Yeah.
And I've got to say, Harry Robertson had another blinder, didn't he?
Yeah, the guy's absolutely electric in it. He is going to be a massive star in Super League this year. We keep saying it every week, but the guy, just love watching him play. When you watch Saints, he's the one to watch at the minute. Tristan Saylor, is also box office, but Harry Roberts, I love watching him play. Other results then: Salford 26, Bradford 16. Salford, with all the adversity that's been going on around that club, Paul Rowley somehow got this team together and they went out and performed. And a lot of people were tipping Bradford. A few injuries for Bradford. Yeah, excuses from me. Yeah, part-time players. We've heard it all before. But yeah, Salford deserved the win, didn't they? They went out and performed after everything that's been going on. Even on the day that their star halfback had just ended up at Warrington. Hats off to Salford.
And one of the games, there was a few where the championship side was leading at half time.
Widnes versus Warrington. Widnes went toe-to-toe with Warrington, didn't they, for a good 60 minutes. It just got away from them at the end. Great to see, though. Do you know what this reinforces for me? And people have for years we've just had all the Super League sides in the quarter final, haven't we? They brought them in a round earlier this time, and you know what? The Championship clubs, they are going toe to toe with some of these Super League sides. Whether that's an increase in the standard of the Championship or the Super League is lowering, I don't know. But there's been some great games.
Well, I think if you go back 6 months, Widnes have had a kick in from Warrington. Warrington would have tore them apart.
I agree.
However, we're in this season now, and you're only as good as your last game. And unfortunately, Warrington are on a little bit of a downer at the minute. So really close. And I was watching that half time. I was like, come on, really wanted Widnes to.
Are we watching it, Craig?
Oh yeah, yeah. We mentioned coverage, didn't you? This
phantom link appeared from somewhere.
Yeah, the phantom YouTube link. Interesting in that game that the referees and the touch judges were mic'd up. And I spent a lot of time listening to the interaction between the referees and the touch, and obviously when you're playing grassroots level, your referees counting the tackles and all that. But there was one of the touch judges was counting it, or maybe it was the fourth official or whatever, was counting the tackles and, keeping a track of that. There was lots of chatter about what had gone on and off the ball that perhaps the referee wasn't watching. But the most interesting bit was the hot mics. The mics were left on after the game. The referees went into the changing room and I was there rubbing my hands together going, this is going to be golden.
Great content coming here.
And then it just popped up, audio stream lost. And I was like, I thought we were going to get some kind of soundbite there from the referees.
So that was a great game. Huddersfield and Wakey as well. Huddersfield leading at half time. I had Huddersfield down to win this one, didn't I? Stupidly, because obviously Wakefield are on fire at the minute. Wakey came back and took the victory.
No, but for good reason, because you've said for a while that Huddersfield are building and getting better, and they were due a win. And if there was ever a time to do it, it was kind of this weekend, but it didn't pan out that way. And Wakey was brilliant.
Yeah, we'll dive into all of these Challenge Cup fixtures and our predictions for this week's Super League in our prediction show, which drops on a Monday evening.
Couple of washout scores to finish off with then. Hull KR beating Oldham 40 points to 0. Catalan beating Fev 46-18. And then Lee 62 points to 4 over Bath. Okay, moving on then. So from the dizzy heights of the Challenge Cup to community rugby, and this week we just want to focus on and have a bit of a community catch up ahead of the Midlands season, which lots of the teams are gearing up for now. So, Karl, you've been doing a bit of digging. You've spoke to some of the reps of Midlands rugby. What have you uncovered?
Yeah, I thought we'd do this section because we've had a lot of new viewers to this show over the past few months. And they may not know sort of our sort of links with the community game, and we do champion the sport outside the heartlands. So the Midlands, I think, is place to start. But over the next few weeks, we'll do like a catch up with the London leagues, the West of England leagues, and just see who's playing and what sort of fixtures we got. And start with the Midlands. So the Midlands Premier Division this year, they're going to be playing every side home and away, so that's a massive positive.
Sorry, Karl, just for those that don't know, so did that not happen in years previous?
It's changed, hasn't it? Like year on year, you get different sort of fixtures. Yeah, so the Midlands Premier Division will be contested between Telford Raiders, who won the division last year and got into the Challenge Cup, Oxford Cavaliers, Birmingham Bulldogs, the longest established side in the Midlands, Sherwood Wolfhunt, Leamington Royals, Coventry Bears and Nottingham Outlaws, who played their first season back in the Midlands last year, having competed in, I think it was Yorkshire 2 the year before.
Yeah, and obviously we've got a full podcast interview with Sean Flynn of Birmingham Bulldogs dropping pretty soon, so look out for that. So that's the men's Premier Division taken care of. What other leagues can we expect to see?
So I just thought to say with the Midlands Premier Division, it's often been looked at as a development league. I think now is the time to say the Midlands is no longer a development league. These teams that are in this Premiership now are long established sides. They turn out quality players year in, year out. I think people are going to start taking the Midlands Division a little bit more serious this year. We've also got a Division 1 this year. First time this has happened for quite a few years. So in Division 1, you've got Worcester Rebels, Sherwood Wolfhunt, second side in there, Swindon St George and Deeping Duck. So great to see that. A lot of teams that are actually located closer to each other. So that will help with travel. So it's great to see a Division 1. And then as well as the Division 1, we've also got a Merit League in the men's. So you've also got Staffordshire Quantums, Aston Warriors. I think Telford will probably put a second side in. Nottingham Outlaws will probably put second side into that Merit League. So there's just a whole feast of rugby league taking place in the Midlands this year.
Yeah, and I think they've been guilty of not having quite enough fixtures at times. So the fact that we've got this ladder, this table system where we've got a bit of relegation, a bit of promotion, those people in the Merit League can opt in. They've got somewhere to progress to in the future.
Yep.
Is only good stuff. And you're right. I think this is time to stop calling it a sort of development league. Some of these clubs have been around well over 20 years, and and well established in the community. So
yeah, and created Super League players, Championship players, and Division 1 players. The leagues are littered with players from the Midlands now. So yeah, time to move on. On to the women's then. So the women's last year was a 9-a-side format. We've seen growth in the women's division, so it's going to 11-a-side this year. I think hoping for 13-a-side, full 13-a-side by next year. So the women's contest this year will be between Telford, Leamington, Coventry, Nottingham, the Midlands Hurricanes and Sheffield A-side.
Yeah, and I think the two teams there that really stand out to me is obviously Midlands Hurricanes. They established themselves last year.
Yep.
And it's good to see that they're in that Midlands Women's League. And then also Sheffield as well. That'd be a welcome addition. And it'll allow It'll allow some of the Midlands-based players to get up there towards the heartlands of Rugby League and experience, Rugby League in the north. So, all good.
Yeah, great to see. Yeah, great to see just the women's game developing in the Midlands. Like you say, the Hurricanes was their first year last year. They weren't in the actual league. So it's good to see them with a full side this year competing in the competition. And yeah, like you say, just having a Yorkshire-based side mix into the Midlands as well. I know Sheffield have got so many players. They've got such a massive community of players at Sheffield Eagles. So yeah, that's really good to see.
So all the clubs in the Midlands are deep into their pre-season training now, and and also constantly chipping away, announcing their signings, the players they've retained and all that kind of stuff. Now, there was one club in particular that's caught your attention, Karl.
Yeah, so Sherwood Wolf put a clip out this week, and I thought this was a little bit different to what anybody else was doing, so I thought, let's get this played on the show. So they mic'd up one of their players during training, and it's just a great clip. Gives you a little bit of an insight into a club, and you know what? It's just something a little bit different.
Football! Why are you whispering it? So Jace can't hear. Try it. You're dead. You've got no need to spin it, boys. You've got no need to spin it. Yeah, I'm over here. Us. Yeah, let's go. Nice. That's where the power is. Boom. That's it. Send it soft, Andy. Like a loaf of bread. Send it like a loaf of bread. Pardon me. Yeah, that's where I went, isn't it? They're not even real.
It's right. Some people aren't pros like that.
Go on. Keep going. Where are you going? Oh my God. I'm over then, yeah?
Okay, hit me.
Oh, take me, Daddy. This could have been us in Malaga. Yeah, it's important to get under. Now you're down. I've got to do what I want with you. Ideally, you ought to be there. Then I'm moving round. I'm already in market. You've got to turn up. See what I mean?
Send it like a loaf of bread.
Yeah, so not quite sure what that means, but no doubt he'll be getting lots of that said to him throughout the season. Yeah, I love it. I love a bit of innovation like that. Yes, we've seen it done at the highest level before and during games, and I always like, that kind of thing. But for a local amateur club to do that, I think that takes a bit of balls and it just puts them outside the box.
Yeah, it's a great clip on it. And like I say, that I like what they do with their social media. It's incredibly high end. More of that from other clubs as well. It'd be great. Yeah,
and I just sort of think if you're perhaps you're a union player or you're someone that's looking to get into rugby league, and then you can go and have a look at their social media and get this portal into what the club is about through clips like that. It's got to help with retention and recruitment of players.
Yeah, just engagement's everything, isn't it? And I think anybody who's looking to play for a club will want to get a feel for what that club's all about. And just little videos like that are just, the perfect way to do it.
Right, we're moving on then. So, Williams Weekly this week. Obviously, we all know the strife that the Rugby Football League is in right now. The governing body is imploding as we speak. Excuse me. Every day there's news dropping of people jumping out of the board of directors, and who knows where we are. We spoke about it at length from Andy Mazey. Now, my question this week, Karl, that I'd like us to talk about is how is the situation in the RFL affecting grassroots rugby league? And I'm talking about all ages, all forms, all genders. You know what I mean? Is it having an effect on the sport as a wider context?
Of course it is, because everything filters down, doesn't it? So, I'll give you one example. The RFL, it seems to be imploding in on itself at the minute, or call it a coup, call it whatever you want. There's all sorts of problems going on. The Salford situation, it all filters down. Like, we haven't had the Ashes announced I don't know if that's because they're too busy sorting internal problems out to announce the Ashes, but it just filters down. That's you want the internationals to be announced. You want the fans to be getting behind it. You want to have a feel good around the sport. And when all you're seeing is negative headlines, it's got to be having an effect on the grassroots.
Yeah, and I wonder, if whilst they're fighting fires and, dealing with crocodiles close to the boat and all that, like how much support can they actually be giving to the grassroots clubs? That many of them on the verge of starting their seasons, and it's like, perhaps they've got questions, they've got things that they're trying to line up, they've got tournaments they're trying to organise, they're trying to get players signed up and all that kind of stuff. And how much actual support can the RFL give them right now?
I mean, I suppose one thing you would say there is that the changes are at top level, board level, aren't they? Sure, how effective the staff are, we don't really know, do they? I mean, I know there are RFL staff that watch this show, and if you can give us a bit of an insight and you want to come on board, even if you just want to drop us a message, I'd love to hear from you. But yeah, surely it's not affecting the ground staff too much, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm just assuming, really. So like you said, it'd be good to know. I also wonder, there's lots of uncertainty, and I'm wondering if there's no real news about the Ashes because deep down, perhaps they don't really, or they might not think it's actually happening, or they think things could fall through, so rather than announce it and have a bit of egg on our face, just say nothing. But of course, as fans wanting information, that doesn't cut it for us. And then
the grounds for the Ashes have been leaked already, haven't they? It was 2 weeks ago. We heard where the games were going to be played: Wembley, Headingley, and the new Everton ground. So yeah, why ain't that been announced?
It needs to be in people's diaries.
It should have been in people's diaries last year, in all honesty, shouldn't it?
But I think we're getting away from the grassroots thing. So if you're you're in the fringe of rugby league looking in, and you can see all this infighting and lack of certainty and all this kind of thing, then it's just not a great way to attract players, retain talent.
No, I mean, all the press releases coming out of the governing body at the minute, it's all, this person's left, that person's left. There's the statement from the women of the RFL. There's no press releases coming out going, right, yeah, the Midlands League starts in 2 weeks' time, or the Southern Conference League is starting, here's some promotion on it, or the NCL's just about to, there was actually, I'll take that back, there was actually a little bit of promotion for the NCL. But yeah, it's got to be... Surely it's affecting... Is it affecting new players coming to the sport? I'm not sure. Because I suppose us looking at it, we're so involved in rugby league. We know we kind of got our finger on the pulse with everything that's going on, as do rugby league fans. Do we think it's affecting new players coming to the sport? Or do you think they just don't really know about it?
I think it depends on their age. I think kids, obviously, they just want to play sport. They want to give it a go, and perhaps they won't bother themselves with what the governing body's doing, perhaps. But older players, yeah, potentially. I think one of the good things, I suppose, is that rugby union's not in much of a better state, is it?
No, rugby union's also imploding on itself as we speak, and I think their infighting's just as bad, if not worse, than what's going on at the Rugby League, to be honest with you.
Right, okay, so I just want to give a bit of a call out then, and I'm inspired pretty much by Andy Mazey at Rochdale. You can't sit back as clubs at any level and just, let's just see what happens with RFL. You've got to be taking care of your own house. You know what I mean? Keep going with your social media. Keep pushing it out there. Because, if you don't, you're going to get to the end of the season and go, well, we're in a terrible state now just because we've been rabbiting headlights, rubbernecking, watching what's going on at the RFL. Right, Karl. Great talking points as always. Just fill the viewers in what is coming up over the next couple of weeks.
Well, Craig, we are going to the greatest show in rugby league. Of course, the outsiders from the outside in. We're going to Lee Leopards versus Wakefield Trinity on the 28th. for the greatest show in Super League. I can't wait. It's our next video in the series from the outside in, where two Rugby League outsiders step back into the heartlands and taking the matchday experience, this time at Leigh.
Yeah, so we did one before, Hull FC. That was really, really popular. So thanks for those who've watched that and commented on it. We're going to do a similar thing at Leigh Leopards, but there's gaps in our knowledge. Where do we need to go? Come on, Leigh fans, people that live in that area. Where do we go for something to eat? You know, what Leigh Leopards kind of connected businesses do we need to be visiting and showcasing? You know, what particular things do you want to see at Elite Sports Village?
Yeah.
You know, we just want a bit of guidance on what you want to see there.
What's the dress code? Obviously.
Are you going for it?
Full leopard? Mate, you've got to go full leopard when you go to Leigh.
Why?
I don't think you get let in. It's like I say, you'll get stopped at the door.
Right.
You know when you go to one of them nightclubs and you're wearing like shit trainers. Well, if you turn up and you're wearing like black trousers and a black top, mate, you ain't getting in.
I was thinking like a sky blue jumper and pair of chinos.
Standard Craig Williams.
Well, the thing is, I don't want to get caught out here. You said to me that if Cambridge lost, that you'd slid, you'd do your hair.
No, I think there was a bit
change your mind.
I think if you watch that back, I think you'll notice I said both teams were going to win.
Oh, yeah,
there was a slip of the tongue, yeah. So on a technicality, I got off on that one.
Right, anyway, so we will see whether Karl turns up in a bit of leopard print or not. But yeah, really looking forward to that on the 28th. What else we got?
We've got a couple of podcasts dropping with Sean Flynn of Birmingham Bulldogs. That is a cracker. He dives into some problems that the club had and had to overcome. So we've got that coming up. Plus our prediction show, plus there's just a whole lot of stuff going out on the YouTube channel these days. And thank you for everybody who's commented as well. We're trying to keep up with them all. It's getting to that point, though, where we're sort of struggling to answer every comment at the minute.
Brilliant. Okay, so until next time, take care.